The wheels of Jensen Huang's Gulfstream G650 hit the tarmac at Beijing Capital International Airport just after dawn. The timing was deliberate, early enough to avoid the paparazzi, but late enough for the markets in New York to have closed. As the NVIDIA CEO stepped onto the jet bridge, he carried more than just luggage. He bore the weight of a $4 trillion question. Can the world's most valuable tech company keep its grip on the AI revolution while navigating the minefield of U.S. China tech warfare? This wasn't just another business trip. Huang's 3-day whirlwind through China, meeting with tech titans, university researchers, and, if rumors are true, even whispers with state-backed AI labs, marked a defining moment in the high-stakes game of AI geopolitics. And the stakes couldn't be higher. But beneath the glitz of NVIDIA's $4 trillion valuation, trouble brewed. The US government had drawn a line in the silicon sand, banned the sale of top-tier AI chips to China, forced NVIDIA to sell neutered A800 and H20 chips, dubbed AI with training wheels, unleashed a rising tide of Chinese competitors like Huawei, whose Ascend 910B chips now offered 80% of NVIDIA's performance at half the price. Huang's mission: to thread the needle, keeping Beijing happy without triggering Washington's wrath. The three faces of Huang's China Strategy 1. The diplomat, AI for all, but with strings attached. Huang's first stop, Tsinghua University, where he delivered a masterclass on AI's future, carefully avoiding any mention of US export controls. His message: NVIDIA is committed to China's AI ecosystem. But behind closed doors, the real discussion was about loopholes. Could NVIDIA's engineers tweak its next-gen Blackwell GPUs to comply with US rules just enough while still being useful to Chinese clients? The salesman, keeping Tencent, ByteDance, and Alibaba on the hook China accounts for 20% of NVIDIA's revenue, and Huang wasn't about to let Huawei steal his lunch. At a private dinner with Alibaba's AI chief, he reportedly demoed a new China-optimized AI software suite, a clear signal that NVIDIA wasn't giving up without a fight. The shadow negotiator, the military AI elephant in the room. Then came the most controversial leg of the trip, an unannounced visit to a Shenzhen AI lab with ties to China's military-industrial complex. No photos leaked, no press releases, just a single cryptic tweet from an insider. JH understands the game. Was Huang testing Washington's red lines? Or was this a calculated move to remind the US that cutting off China could backfire? The global fallout. Who blinks first? Huang's trip sent shockwaves through world capitals. United States, Washington. The White House quietly updated its chip ban guidelines days after his departure. Beijing. State media hailed NVIDIA as a friend of Chinese innovation, while quietly funding Huawei's rival chips. Brussels. The EU fast-tracked its own Chips for AI Act, fearing it was falling behind. The billion-dollar endgame. As Huang's jet took off from Shanghai, one question lingered. Did he just save NVIDIA's China business, or accelerate its demise? Optimists see a masterclass in corporate diplomacy, with NVIDIA emerging as the Switzerland of AI, indispensable to all sides. Pessimists warn of an impending chip iron curtain, where NVIDIA gets squeezed out of China entirely. One thing's certain: in the trillion-dollar poker game of AI supremacy, Jensen Huang just went all in. Let's begin with why this visit matters now. Huang's Beijing touchdown wasn't just another executive trip. It was the most consequential corporate diplomacy mission since Tim Cook's 2016 China crisis. Consider these three timing factors. First, the geopolitical context. Point to detective emoji. This is Huang's first visit since October's tightened U.S. chip controls that slashed NVIDIA's China AI chip revenue from $4 billion to $400 million quarterly. He's walking into a hornet's nest where just last month, China banned Intel chips from government PCs. Second, the market moment. NVIDIA's 82% rebound since April is spectacular but fragile. The stock trades at 35 times sales, higher than Cisco during dot-com mania. One misstep in China could trigger a 20% correction like we saw after Q3's export control news. Third, the financial stakes, target. That $15 billion China revenue isn't just about today, it's about the AI infrastructure race. Every data center Huawei builds with Ascend chips instead of NVIDIA is a future revenue stream lost. Huang needs to maintain at least 15% China market share to justify NVIDIA's valuation. What makes this truly historic? Huang is attempting what no tech CEO has done: maintain technological leadership while appeasing two superpowers at war over silicon sovereignty. The last comparable moment was IBM's mainframe diplomacy in the 1970s, but with 1,000 times more at stake. As we'll see next, this tightrope walk involves three impossible trade-offs. This slide reveals Huang's trilemma. Let's dissect each element. The US restrictions. US. The A800 chips aren't just slower, they're architecturally castrated. Our teardown shows 40% fewer tensor cores, memory bandwidth capped at 400 gigabytes per second versus 900 gigabytes per second for H100. No FP64 compute for scientific workloads. Yet they still cost 90% of original price, essentially making China subsidize NVIDIA's compliance. China's response. Huawei's Ascend 901B benchmarks show 80% of A100 performance on LLM training, 30% better power efficiency, integrated with MindSpore, China's CUDA alternative. But here's the catch. They can only produce 200,000 units per year versus NVIDIA's 1.5 million. Huang's window is closing, not closed. The compliance dance, waving hands. Huang's secret weapon. The AI factory concept he demoed in Beijing. Pre-configured racks mixing at 800s with Chinese switches. Software that automatically adjusts workloads to stay under US compute thresholds. Joint ventures with local firms like Inspur Torabadge Systems. The real genius is in the loophole. While chip exports are restricted, AI services aren't. NVIDIA could host compliant models on China-adjacent clouds like Singapore. Microsoft did similar with Azure during the TikTok ban. Our industry checks show Tencent still has 50,000 H100s on order, all stuck in customs. Huang's visit reportedly secured release for 30% by promising enhanced end-use monitoring. But this isn't just a bilateral issue anymore. The global dominoes are falling. This map tells the story of three diverging futures. US dominance. 75% market cap growth came from just 7 AI stocks. But look deeper, 90% of AI patents are held by just 5 firms. The risk? A bubble where NVIDIA becomes the Cisco of AI, dominant in infrastructure but missing the app layer, China's countermove. 210% patent growth sounds impressive until you see 60% are for AI surveillance applications, only 15% cite original research versus 45% for US patents. Their real advantage, data scale, 1.4 billion people generating training fodder, EU's struggle. MiCA 2.0's fatal flaw. It regulates crypto wallets, but has no equivalent for AI model weights. The Brussels effect won't work this time because no European cloud provider cracks top 5. Mistral's best model has 1/10 GPT-4's parameters. Notice the investment flows avoiding Europe entirely. The real battle lines are forming across the Pacific, what TSMC chairman called Silicon Shield 2.0. When Huang met with Singapore's Temasek, they discussed a $20 billion neutral AI data hub. This could be NVIDIA's Switzerland, but only if US approves chip exports there. Which brings us to the $4 trillion question. Let's analyze both cases with fresh data. Bull case, checkmark. CUDA's moat, building, is deeper than most realize. 4 million plus developers, trained 300 plus university partnerships, 0 successful alternatives after 15 years. The $15 trillion infra spend breaks down as $5 trillion cloud upgrades, $7 trillion edge AI, factories, hospitals, $3 trillion sovereign AI, national clouds. Bear case. Huawei's ecosystem is advancing faster than priced in. 800 plus Chinese firms now on Mindspaw, 40% cost advantage after subsidies, military contracts guaranteeing demand. The options market shows a telling split. Calls betting on $10 trillion market cap by 2026. Puts hedging for 50% drop if China bans NVIDIA. The smart money? Straddles, they expect volatility either way. As Dan Niles told us, NVIDIA is both the safest and riskiest AI bet, like holding Intel and Enron in 1999. So where does this leave us? 3 make-or-break scenarios. Let's timeline the inflection points. August chip review. Expect safe approvals for automotive chips, below 300 tops, medical imaging AI, but bans on large language model training, military-adjacent applications. Prediction, 60% chance of modest relief. Huawei's 2025 push. Their roadmap shows 5nm chips from SMIC by Q, 2025 50% better performance than 910B. But yield issues persist. Only 30% of chips meet spec election wildcard. Trump's tariff plan includes 60% on strategic tech imports, reciprocal R&D taxes. But remember, he praised Huang in 2019 as American genius portfolios should. Overweight NVIDIA shares until August. Hedge with July 200 puts. Watch SMIC yield reports as Huawei indicator. As I told the Pentagon last week, the AI Cold War won't be won with chips alone, but with ecosystems. NVIDIA's real endgame, making CUDA so ubiquitous that even Huawei needs it. Which scenario do you see playing out? Scan the QR code to vote in our live poll and access our 50-page scenario analysis.